हे गाइस, मैं हूँ विवेक सनिल और मेरे साथ आज है एक इंडियन इंटरनेशनल आर्टिस्ट जिनका नाम है ऋषि. नाउ ऋषि इज़ वन अमॉन्ग मैनी हु इज़ विनिंग हार्ट्स ऑनलाइन. इंडिपेंडेंट आर्टिस्ट है, खुद का यूनिक म्यूजिक शेयर करते हैं ऑनलाइन. बट एक चीज़ लोगों को बहुत पसंद है उनके बारे में, और वो है कि उनका जो कर्नाटिक म्यूज़िक है वो वेस्टर्न गानों के साथ जो मिलन होता है वो गाना लोगों को बहुत पसंद आ रहा है. सो वील गेट चैटिंग विद हिम. बट कुछ गाने ऐसे हैं जैसे दुआ लिपा का लेविटेटिंग एंड वीकेंड का ब्लाइंडिंग लाइट्स, दे हैव बिकम रियली पॉपुलर क्योंकि ऋषि ने ये कर्नाटिक टच जो दिया है इन गानों को. So let's get chatting with Rishi. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here as well, man.
So Rishi, I think pandemic has changed all of us for good. And if I'm not wrong, 2021 is the year which transformed you into a social media star.
It kind of was, yeah. 2021 was a really interesting year for me. I've been making music for a really long time now, but I decided I need to get on TikTok and start, trying to figure that platform out for myself. So I was putting out different kinds of videos of my different songs, and then I kind of randomly had this idea of um, making like a remix of a song called Astronaut in the Ocean, where I would sing like Swaras after, like, what you know about rolling down, like, and then I was like, I showed my friend Josiah, and I was like, you think that'd be cool? He was like, dude, that's amazing. Yeah, you totally have to do that. So then the next day I went and I made it, posted it, and it went to like 500,000 views overnight or something like that, or maybe not overnight, maybe over the next 2 days. And it was like, that's crazy. And then I made like five the next day after that. Levitating was one of them. And there's kind of has been no looking back.
It's really inspiring what you've done. I would love to know that, the idea of coming onto social media and showing your music online. As an independent artist, we know that, the kind of struggles that every artist goes through. But other than that, what was your life with music? If you could just, tell us a little bit about that before
Like
social
before
media.
going viral, do you mean once I was going viral?
Before social media, what was your life with music? I mean, how would
Oh
you
yeah.
bring
I
it to
mean,
people?
yeah, one of the coolest things I think is that, like, when I was really studying music and practicing music, it was a little bit before this era of like TikTok and ultra virality and that being on my mind all the time. So I was really, when I was learning Carnatic music, it was with no intention of like fame or like million. Like it was really an internal journey of like, I wanted to learn this art form. And I really had the privilege of diving deep into it. My guru Sri Surya Prakash is a Carnatic music performer, and he was gracious enough to even have me in his home for like 2 months when I was in high school, like off on breaks and stuff, and him coming to America and interacting and really being able to dive into music for no other reason than just that. So like all the viral stuff, all the creating social media content, all of that was kind of like a very afterthought. Even writing songs came first, like from a place of wanting to understand the craft and understanding how to do it, how to put it together, how I can, like, how do I do what my idols are doing, like the Coldplays, the John Billions, the Laubs, the Jeremy Zuckers, the Rahmans, like the Rajas, like those, like the musical creativity that is in such abundance. Just seeing that and being like, okay, I want to touch that in some way, and might never be possible, but like still that longingness. And then obviously the social media thing came, and that has been a whirlwind and an incredible thing in and of itself. But my musical journey was definitely pretty removed from the idea of like wanting thousands or millions of people to hear.
But you know what, Rishi? I mean, once they say that, that every South Indian family has this culture of passing on music knowledge to, your kids and some
Absolutely.
instrument or some, singing classes. And probably you picked it up there and look at where you are
Absolutely,
now.
yeah. My dad is a singer. He's been singing in the house every single day since I was a kid. So it pretty much falls right down the line. My party is teaches Carnatic music as well. So she was the one that initially was like, oh, she needs to go to Carnatic. He needs to be understand our culture, blah blah blah.
But you think that Carnatic music is something that if you learn, every genre of music becomes easy to understand or easy to follow.
That's a good question. That's a good question. In like the normal parlance of Carnatic music, people do say that. They always say that about classical music. I don't think it's necessarily true. Every genre is different. If you're gonna sing like a pop, like if you're gonna sing pop music, it's such a different technique and it's such a different aesthetic. Like Carnatic music, melodically and rhythmically, is much more complex than most systems of music in the world. It's very, very explored. It's very theoretical. There's so much to be explored there in as far as melody and rhythm. But harmonically, we didn't explore that field. That was the West. So if you want to understand harmonic complexity and how that whole system of music works, you kind of do have to learn that separately. And if you want to understand how to write like pop songs, you have to understand lyrics. Like, how do you write lyrics in English? Like, that's not something that's covered in Carnatic music. So I do think that my understanding of music is shaped by my understanding of Carnatic music, for sure. um but there's no plug and play that exists, in my opinion, in any system of music. Like, you can't learn opera and then easily sing pop music. You can't learn pop music and then you easily sing opera or Carnatic or jazz. Like, everything is like a field that like thousands upon thousands of people have dedicated their entire lives to. So there's no shortcut from place to place. If you want to go there, you better go there and fully dive into it, is what I think.
And when I mentioned that coming from a South Indian family, Carnatic music is normally which comes in naturally into our lives. But also when you're born in America, pop culture, the music over there, blues, jazz, probably any genre, that comes naturally into people as well. Now you have mixed both of them. I mean, it requires some level of IQ to do that, to understand that. And I'm really, absolutely inspired by your social media posts as well. But you got to tell
Mhm.
us that, that fusion that you did. I'm sure there must be some kind of effort, some kind of work that
Yeah,
must have gone through.
absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting. So it's interesting that I like kind of like found the success doing fusion, because like all like I in general haven't been like the kind of person that's so into fusion, right? Like, growing up in my musical journey, I've been very like all in Carnatic music, pure Carnatic music, and all in pop music in that form. So the task to me of like, I knew I'm in a really lucky position where I understand both of these worlds and I need to try to fuse them. Don't necessarily go together off the bat, like you said. So it's been a process of like, in my original music, figuring that out probably like over like the last 4 years, like with my producer Matthew Boda, and kind of being like, okay, what can I do that makes sense to his ear, that doesn't trip him up? Because as someone that's grown up within the aesthetic of Carnatic music, my ear is used to more of the embellishments, more of the ornaments. Whereas to him, some of it might be, I'm not sure, right? So it's finding the middle ground where it works for both worlds is what takes a while. It's like there's many different kinds of improvisation within Carnatic music. There's like alap, there's swaram, narava, like there's so many different things. So it's like tanam, there's like the task was to try these different things within these contexts in different songs and see, okay, what clicks with each song. And kind of learning that. When it comes to the remixes, those actually came a little bit quicker, because the moment that I had the idea to do them, I had already been writing pop melodies for so long, and I've been singing swarams for so long as well. So what I'm basically trying to do in my mind is, how do I create a swaram pattern or a swaram composition? Sometimes it happens on like truly improvise the first take, and sometimes I go back and I'm like, okay, how do I really tweak this so that it's catchy? Because in Carnatic music, the idea is not to be catchy and repeatable. The idea is to find a flow and to find like sarvalagu, like which is meaning you're like this unique pocket that exists with Carnatic music. So how do I mix Sarvalagu Swarams and like the pocket of like pop catchiness, And it took me probably writing songs for 4 years, and then understanding, okay, how do you write hooky pop melodies, and then also knowing how to do Carnatic music, and then bringing the two together. And it seems like people, have kind of gravitated towards them, which I'm very blessed.
They loved it. I think everyone loves it. It's got a different tune to it. It's got a different sound to it. It's so fresh, and this is why people like it because you've made something original out of it, even though it's already there. Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
also, when you make it listen, make your dad listen to the songs or your guru, who are
Yeah.
completely into Carnatic music,
Yeah.
do they take any offense?
No, absolutely not. I mean, my parents are super supportive in every single way. Like I wouldn't be doing any of this if it weren't for them. Like right from the initial encouragement, supporting me and really like being the first people, you know, cheering me on and everything. Because like I said, my dad is a musician himself. So all of this whole wave and like my mom was like right when I was a kid, like correcting my pronunciation and my diction on every song I would sing and right after I'd come down from stage, you're like, oh, that word you pronounced wrong. You gotta fix that next time, or you know. So it's like they've been very intimately involved, and my guru too is like, he is like there's lots of traditionalism within Carnatic music, and he's someone that exists within that extremely traditional space when it comes to his music, but when it comes to his outlook on the world, you know, he's super happy that you know we're able to bring Carnatic music to a much wider audience that maybe wouldn't have heard it, and still the job needs to be done. Like so the next part of the next phase of work is going to be like giving them even more information, like okay, now you've heard a little bit of Swarams with Levitating and you understand it's kind of cool, so then maybe you can listen to a Mohanam Alap, you know, maybe you can hear a song, and you know ultimately the vision is like maybe in 15-20 years, like it's not alien, the concept of like, oh, what is a swara, and maybe if most people in America, if we achieve like a you know a radio single or something, then they'll have to know, you know, which is I think which whether it's me or not, it doesn't even matter to me really, but I think some brown artist is going to achieve that in the next 15 years, and that's going to be
We
really
know
exciting.
Rishi, we now know your master plan, and we are all supportive with you now. We're going to make all Americans sing the Swaras. But also, you got to tell us, how are Americans accepting this? You live there, your friends,
Yeah,
how are they accepting these cultures as well? Are they
it's
open to it?
beautiful. Yeah, it's really that's one of the coolest things about this whole thing is that growing up I kind of had this feeling of like shame is a very strong word. It wasn't that. It was a milder version of it, but it was like, this is too different. I can't show this off to people. Like they won't understand the gamakams. They'll just think it's weird, right? And part of it is being surrounded, like growing up in an environment where it's not the normal aesthetic. Like in India, like Carnatic music is so normal to hear. Swarams are like everyone gets the aesthetic because it's in our film music, it's in our pop music, it's in our classical music everywhere. Whereas here it's so left field, but when I put these out and like getting responses from like people that weren't Indian, like in 50-50 with Indian people was like really interesting because I was like, this people actually want to hear this. Like they like it. They don't understand it, but they want to know more. They're asking questions. I even had like multiple kind of like experience of being out in public, and then someone walks up to me and they're like, hey, do you make those remixes? They're really cool. And like not even Indian people. And I'm like, oh wow, like this is kind of interesting. You know, so I actually when I shot the Levitating video, the music video that I put out, our AC on set, like the night, like we were all hanging out the next day at like a pool party or whatever, and he called a friend of his and he was like, oh yeah, I just got off set, I was working with a guy named Hrishi, and then his friend was like, wait, like Hrishi songs, like you like the Carnatic remixes, and he was like, yeah, and it was a crazy moment because I had no connection, like nobody on my team had any connection to that person. So it was like, yeah, it's definitely reaching people that aren't Indian, and I think that's a cool part. That said, though, a big part of the mission is reaching people that are Indian and making them feel seen and heard. Because if I had, if I had seen viral, Carnatic remixes on TikTok when I was in high school, I probably would have felt a lot more comfortable and open about the fact that I sang Carnatic music and like, oh yeah, I do that too. Like, or maybe I would have sung it at like a talent show or whatever, like, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's just exciting in general.
You know what? You've opened up a new way of entertaining people, of course. People who love Carnatic music, classical music, who love pop music, they can also come together and probably enjoy your music. Now you're
Yeah,
performing online, but one day you'll be performing in front of millions of people on stage.
for sure. That's definitely the goal. Definitely the goal.
Now, talking about your, independent songs as well, like A Ghost or Golden Hour,
Yeah.
20 something as well. How's it going with you with the independent songs?
It's been really great. I've been super blessed, and I like before I started putting music out, I like really invested time into like learning marketing and understanding like how to market your songs digitally, how to create like a brand, and how can you create merchandise, sell music to fans, and acquire fans on the internet. Because right now we're in like this golden age of entrepreneurship where you're able to create funnels and you're able to like have them self liquidate, and there's just so many cool things happening. And that was all before the whole viral thing. And the viral thing is amazing because you get so many eyes, but really as an independent artist, the you have to get so many customers because that's how you can make a living, right? It's not like exposure doesn't necessarily pay. So but it does in its own ways, of course. Like at a certain point when you hit a certain threshold, the brand deals start coming. I did like a really special Instagram uh, partnership last Diwali, actually, where it was their first year kind of celebrating Diwali as a company, and they contracted 4 Indian creators on the app to kind of come celebrate with them and do this live stream. And it was a really cool thing to see that like the whole world right now is kind of getting ready to acknowledge and celebrate Indian culture, which I'm super grateful for. I think it's a beautiful time.
And since you
Um,
mentioned about collaboration as well, what if Dua Lipa calls you? What if The Weeknd calls you and says, and they say that, come, let's do that song together? What would
yeah, I
Rishi
mean,
say?
listen, I'm down for any kind of collaboration at this stage of my career. It's like that's very exciting. Um, but of course, it's a slow growing process. Like and being an independent artist is like things don't necessarily happen boom, right? But sometimes they do. Like the whole viral success kind of did come really quick. But I think my where I'm at right now is understanding how can I really build that, and how do I reproduce whatever content I'm making or whatever success that is bringing. Like how do I do it even better, even faster for the fans to kind of have like a consistent stream of content.
Have you thought about remixing or, getting a fusion with Bollywood songs as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's been my last project. So I've been there's a bunch of work that I've been doing since this first kind of phase of putting out the TikToks and stuff. But I think it's like there's so much beautiful music in Bollywood, and because I'm South Indian and grew up here, I actually don't have as much exposure to Bollywood songs. So it's been a really beautiful last couple of weeks of kind of really exploring and discovering a lot of music for the first time, like even like classics that might be just commonplace to other people, but then being like, how do I reimagine that song in my voice and with my Carnatic remix and kind of with my producers and kind of creating my version of it. So I'm really stoked to put some of that stuff out. I think it's going to be special.
It'll be amazing, Bollywood songs and Carnatic mix of it as well. But quickly, is it possible that, we could hear a little bit of your own independent music, maybe 20 something or maybe Golden Hour? A little bit if you could sing for us.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Um, Thinking about the golden hour right before the sun went dark, when I would take your picture, riding in my best friend's car. The secret lighted Olmsted Island. We made love to Coldplay songs when we said the world is ours. That was my golden hour.
Superb, yeah, really nice. You've got a
Thank you,
such
man.
a pleasant voice, Rishi. I must say now can we move on to Swaras? The most important thing about the Swaras. If you could do a little bit of
Absolutely.
it, we will all go crazy. I think right now.
Absolutely. Um, Pama sa sa sa, pama ni ni ni, ni sa ga ma pa ma ga ri ni sa ni ni ri ni ga ri ga sa sa ri ni. Pani pani za za ni za ni za gari ni sa ga ma gari ni sa ga ma pani da ma pa sa ni da pa pa ma ga gari ni sa ma gari sa ni za di za ni za za ni za gari za ni da ma 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 ba ba ni ni sa sa ga di ma ga di ma ba ga di sa ma ga di ni sa ni sa ni ga di ga sa sa di ni pa ni ba sa sa pa ni ba di pa ni ba ga di ga sa di ni sa ni ga di ga sa di ni sa di ma ma ga ga di sa ni sa ga ma pa ma ga di sa ga ma pa ni da ma pa ma ga di ga ga Gamani da ni ma da ni da ma gamani da ma gamani ni za ni da ma gama pa ma ga ri za ni da ma ga ma ni ga ga ma ni za ni da ni da ma gama ga ri za ga ri za ni ga ri za za ga ri za za.
Too good, yeah, too good, Rishi.
Thank
Please
you,
be
man.
honest and tell us that, once your videos started getting viral, how many marriage proposals did you get?
Marriage proposals. I don't think I'm quite in that stage of my life yet. So, but you definitely, I got um, a lot of people reaching out, which was really cool. Like I would get like hundreds of messages a day from people just saying, your music makes me feel seen, or like these remixes are really cool. Like I love the way that these two halves of my life are brought together, and that was a huge blessing, and it was a lot to take in, and definitely took me some time to wrap my head around existing in the real life and also existing in the digital platform, and these two different kind of artists, me and myself, me, and balancing the two, right? But it was a huge blessing, like so many people, and I'm really excited to be able to bring value to even more people in the coming months.
And you're doing it beautifully, Rishi. I must say, you're using proper. वो कहते हैं ना कि आपने बहुत ही अच्छे से social media का use किया है. And we're all very proud the way you are putting content as well. Looking forward for more and more many songs from Rishi songs on Instagram. It was such a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It was an incredible interview.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon in Dubai.
Absolutely. Definitely.